What's up, everyone? Welcome to Level 7. It's time for another episode of the Agents of Fandom podcast. I am your host, TJ Zwarich, joined, as always, by my co-host and good buddy, Adam Blevins. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing good. I'm a little tired. I'm as sad as I am that this show is coming to an end. I'm also very excited. It feels like we're getting ready to enter into a new era with the boys, with House of the Dragon. And, as this show, especially when X-Men 97 started, we were covering 3 shows at once, which was a little chaotic. So as sad as I am that we won't be able to talk about and especially watch this show anymore, I'm feeling good. I'm ready to enter into a new era.
We have a nice little break before our coverage of The Acolyte begins on the podcast, and so we're going to have to figure out what we're talking about in the meantime, but we still have some pretty exciting episodes coming next week. We will be joined by Paul from Heavy Spoilers himself, so that's going to be a really fun time, and so make sure, if you're watching us today, you hit the like button, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you're watching us on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to the Agents of Fandom wherever you get your podcast. You can also follow us on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. That's all next week's stuff. We got exciting stuff coming today as well. It's the finale of X-Men 97, the 10th episode, Tolerance is Extinction, Part 3. And we have not one, but 2 strong guests helping us carry it through. First up, co-host of the Direct Podcast, David Thompson. How you doing, David?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me on today. This has been a fantastic 2 months of X-Men 97, and I'm sad it's over, but what a series.
What a series is right, and I'm thankful to have a fellow Spider-Man mega fan talk through this final episode with me because there was something pretty exciting going down in it. But joining us as well, you know him, he's been around here lots lately, and he's going to be around probably even more when the Acolyte comes up. It's our guy, co-host of the Reckless Rebellion podcast, TCR, Thomas Carter Rochester. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I have never been more in on the X-Men in my life, and I've seen every single movie. And that ends that. I have not read a lot of X-Men comics. I haven't watched other animated series. But I'm absolutely floored by how good this was. And you talk about, a little something that happened. I just need Spider-Man 98. I need it to be a thing. I need it right now. I've only been waiting for, I don't want to put a number on it, but something along the lines of almost 20 freaking years to find out what happened to Mary Jane. And spoiler alert, Bo DeMayo told us he found her. So how did that happen? I need it, Disney. I'm not asking for a lot.
That in itself is just a perfect television show. You wouldn't have to worry about messing with any continuities. You can just travel through the Spider-Verse, interacting with different Spider-Men, different characters throughout the multiverse, throw the Watcher in there, and you have a wonderful series as he searches the multiverse for Mary Jane with his pal, not so much pal, but work colleague, Madam Web. But that would be a very, very exciting series. But I want to start off with a brand new segment we fired off here because now that we're not covering 2, 3 shows all at once, we're just covering 1. We got a little more time. So we're starting off with Whatcha Watching, not covering for work because so many of us that we have on the podcast, are working here in the industry, and so much of what they watch isn't for enjoyment, but it's for work. And I mean, you do enjoy it because this is an awesome job. But Adam, for fun right now, what are you throwing on when you're looking to relax and you're just having some Adam time?
Well, I'm not all that familiar with the concept of Adam time of recent. I haven't had as much time to stop and watch stuff like that, but I have been the one that I'm going to give one TV show and one game that I've been kind of doing in my spare time, completely unrelated to coverage. And I'm watching The Legend of Korra for the first time. I started way back before, the live action, Last Airbender came out earlier on this year on Netflix. I rewatched that show, and everybody had always been telling me for so long, watch The Legend of Korra. You got to watch it. It's so good. So as soon as I finished my rewatch, I was like, you know what? There's no better time to just go ahead and dive into this right now. So I think I'm about halfway through the final season 4, and so far on that, I'm not sold. I've loved it so far. I really especially seasons 2 and 3 for me, both absolutely awesome. Season 1 was a little rocky, but I still really enjoyed it. I'm not quite sold on season 4, but I still feel like the best is yet to come on that. So I'm really, really excited, and I'm enjoying that show. But And then game wise, this ties a little bit into coverage because I have been writing about it a little bit, but I'm also replaying Elden Ring. I played it last year, like early last year for the first time, and now they got a huge DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree, coming out. I believe in June, so I'm replaying that for the first time, and just what a game! I can't. It makes me mad that when last year, before I played it, or 2 years ago when it came out, I was so upset that God of War didn't win Game of the Year, like God of War Ragnarok. Like, oh, God of War Ragnarok should have won, not Elden Ring. And then I played Elden Ring, and I'm like, no, I get it now. This is on a whole other level of anything that I've ever experienced. So super excited for Shadow of the Erdtree. But yeah, I mean, outside of covering stuff, that's pretty much the only things that I'm doing in my spare time. But that's enough for me because I'm having a great time with both of them for sure.
And hopefully you'll be able to have some a little bit more Adam time before all of the crazy coverage of June pops up, because I know you're going to be doing a lot of writing, not just for us at the Agents of Fandom, but for Collider, for Screen Rant. So you're going to be a busy guy come the month of June. David, how about you? What are you doing for your free time to enjoy yourself right now?
Yeah, honestly, like not too much free time, kind of same thing. Even like I've been reading a lot this year, and that's slowed down a lot just because of like not as much kind of just by myself free time. I've been reading 1984, George Orwell's classic, but I'm only about halfway through, and I've just been like grudging through it just because I haven't had that much time. But me and my wife, our free time, we normally spend watching some kind of show, and it is normally not a show that I would be watching, for work, let's just say. So we've been watching Under the Bridge, which is the Riley Keough, Lily Gladstone show on Hulu. There's a couple episodes left, like true crime, really good show. Highly recommend it if you haven't like heard about it or heard of it. It's really good show. Under the Bridge, that's on Hulu. And then we watched also on Hulu is 9 Perfect Strangers that came out a few years ago. That's Nicole Kidman and just a giant cast, and that is a weird, wacky show, which I would kind of recommend. It's a really weird show, but it was a lot of fun to watch. And Nicole Kidman's just completely just off the rails as this like crazy, basically like cult leader. It's kind of awesome. But we finished that the other day, and that was a pretty interesting watch.
One of the funny things right now with having a newborn in the house is my wife, obviously time just doesn't really exist anymore. You just, hours of the day blend together, and sometimes you're working in the middle of the night, you're sleeping during the day, but she likes to have different shows to watch just as something to do while feeding the baby. And a lot of the times that is in the middle of the night. And so her middle of the night show right now is Golden Girls. Watching Golden Girls because it's just like such a nice, easy, it's okay if you fall asleep to it kind of show. Yeah. And then her during the day show, she loves a procedural. We watched 7 seasons of The Mentalist together, and right now she's on to Castle with Nathan Fillion. And it's surprisingly enjoyable. But we also did just start Bridgerton today. Made it through episode 1 of season 3. Really enjoying that so far. It's looking like it's going to be an exciting season. And then I also, I'm watching 3 Body Problem right now. I got 1 episode left. That show's pretty wild. But I'm so deep into MLB The Show right now. Anytime I'm not writing, doing Agents of Fandom work, doing Roto Grinders work, or fathering, it's been MLB The Show for me. And I invite the smoke. Anybody on socials that wants the smoke. Yeah. David, we might have to get a little stream going on, something, play a little game, because
dude. I just grind my like Road to Glory mode. That's like all I play. It's just my like solo player guy. It's so much fun. 1 MVP last year. Nice. It's awesome.
Nice. It's such a fun interactive game. Makes you feel like you're in it. But anyways, TCR, how about you? What are you watching right now?
Yeah, what's Adam time? Like, I feel the same way. I am working, and when I'm not working, I'm working on something else. I just got back from a 9-day vacation on Monday, so work has consumed my life since I got back. In what little free time I do have, I've been watching X-Men the animated series, just enjoying it, just watching it. I'd seen a good amount of it in the 90s, but that was like 30 years ago, so I don't quite remember it all. I started Pokemon Indigo League because my girlfriend is huge into Pokemon. I've seen half a dozen episodes or so, maybe, from that, watching it with my roommate, getting drunk back in college. Shout out Florida Tech. And I started something the other day, and I just completely forgot about what it was. The roast of Tom Brady. That's
Oh,
what I
yeah.
started and stopped like 30 minutes in because I was like, I got things to do, man. But before I went on vacation, all my free time was kind of going to Spider-Man 2, the video game, playing that and watching a copious amount of movies, including the Sam Raimi Spider-Man. I think in the month of April, I saw 10 total movies. And I'm going to include May the 3rd, which is when I watched The Phantom Menace. That's the last movie I saw in theaters. A lot of that, a lot more movies, I would say, than shows, but that's just because carving out a couple hours to go to the theater and not focus on my phone has been a lot easier than trying not to get sucked into my phone and into work when I'm at the hoose.
Well, if you ever need somebody to help make you feel smart when you don't want to ask your girlfriend a question you want to pretend like you already know regarding Pokemon, you just fire me a text. I'll help you out. As things get newer, my knowledge it dissipates, but everything from like the first 3 gens, I got you fully covered, my guy. Don't worry about that. I've been watching a ton of like older movies, not old, but like comedy movies that I've enjoyed in the past a lot recently too. I fired up Horrible Bosses the other night before bed. Last night's movie was Blades of Glory. So a couple of gems in there. But the show that we're here to talk about is X-Men 97, because what an amazing series this has been. 10 episodes. We are now through season 1. We know there will be at least a season 2 and 3 coming of this show. Voice recordings are finished for season 2 already, so it probably won't be that long of a wait for us. Hopefully, obviously, the animation is what takes longer than the voice recording, but X-Men 97 was, by all accounts, a resounding success, and it's really exciting to see where they'll go from here. David, I'll start with you. What did you think of the series as a whole so far?
Wow, as a whole, it definitely blew my expectations completely out of the water because I wasn't an X-Men animated fan at all. Like, I didn't grow up in that era necessarily. I didn't watch the reruns of that show. So for me, this was brand new. And with that, I wasn't quite sure. I honestly, going into the series months and months ago, was like, X-Men 97, I guess I'll watch, and even then, it was one of those things where I knew I'd watch the first week, but I wasn't sure I'd keep going. I wasn't sure I was going to be totally locked in. I mean, I guess I would, for coverage and in that sense, but I wasn't sure I'd really be that interested. After that first week, those couple of first episodes, I was so locked into this show, as were so many other people out there. And this really, it's funny. So over on the Direct Pod, we're doing a mutant marathon, rewatching all the live action X-Men movies. And we like recorded a bunch early and all this. So we're trying to not like jumble our thoughts and like talk about, date ourselves in many ways. But it was so hard when discussing some of these movies to not compare it to X-Men 97, because there's so many examples of certain characters done in a much better way in the 97 series. So honestly, in that sense, it's really showed me, the series as a whole, how great the X-Men could be, why people love the X-Men so much. Because, I'll be honest, I've never been like the biggest X-Men person, that's honestly solely based off a few comics and the live action movies. But now I get it. And I think because this is a Marvel Studios project, there are so many elements of the animated series they can now nab for live action going in the future. And seeing it really is such a great test, this series is, for what people really like and are drawn to. And then they can move for, the big blockbuster events we're all assuming are going to happen in, 5 years or whenever it happens.
Who were those characters for you? Primarily your top, maybe 1 or 2 that stood out as, wow, this is done way better than in the movies.
Yeah, a lot. Cyclops, for sure. I mean, Cyclops is like the by far number 1, because I always actually liked Cyclops. He was always my favorite, oddly enough, but I was always kind of ridiculed for that, like based on the especially like based on like the live action movies. But I always liked Cyclops. I don't know, and he's so much better in this series. Storm is a character that gets just completely gypped in the live action movies, in my opinion, and she's much better done in this one. Rogue, for sure. I do not like the early 2000s rendition of Rogue at all, but I love this version of Rogue. And then, of course, I really hope that we get a great Gambit. I want Remy in live action, a great casting there, something that would actually, I think transcend what this animated series character did and become an awesome live action version. Because the greatness about the X-Men is there are so many mutants. There's so many characters they can go to for live action, let's just say, just keep making that comparison. So it'd be really cool to see what they do next. But yeah, I mean, practically every character was an upgrade besides like Wolverine, but Wolverine's just its own version in this. He's not the leader, he has his own role, which I thought was also really cool to see. And I loved because those live action movies depend so much on Wolverine. It was really cool seeing a series that is so incredibly just oozing X-Men, but it's still so strong. It's still so strong without needing Wolverine to be the guy up front. So it's awesome. Like I was, by the way, like Magneto and Professor X, two incredible characters, no matter where they are. They're always awesome, it seems like, including this series.
That's very true. Those are two that have been done well basically across the board. The one that still kind of bothers me a little bit in this series, one of the few qualms that I have is I agree 100% that Storm in this compared to how she was done in the live actions, especially the later ones, so much better. She had some of the best lines and moments of the entire series, but just give us more. Stop making me like a little taste test serving. She's the goddess of the elements. Give me more Storm. I thought she was criminally underused, but other than that, that's one of my only few qualms with the series. TCR, how about you? What do you think of the series as a whole? Who are your character standouts?
I love the series as a whole. It is so high up on the list for me, especially because I seem to have the luck of watching an entire season, and then the next week's episode of 97 just happened to tie into that whole season, up until Genosha, basically. And then at that point, I was like, well, that never happened in the series. So I absolutely love it. It's fantastic. It's very high. I don't want to like spoil my rating or anything like that this early. Everything that David said echoes standout characters for me. I have fallen in love with Nightcrawler. I've always loved his power is the power I've always wanted in my life. Teleportation, the ability to just instantaneously drop out of space-time and come back in another location. It's the dream. Who wants to drive? Gas prices, ridiculous. Never have to worry about gas again. But I've seen him obviously in the live action movies, and I knew about him. But this series specifically, because we get so much of him, it's like, oh man, I love this little blue guy. He's easily in my top 3 favorite Blue Boys, which, as we all know, is headed by Thrawn, favorite Grand Admiral. I mean, Storm has always been my favorite of the X-Men. She's great in this. I love Jean Grey. This is my favorite version of Jean Grey. 97 specifically. In the original X-Men series, there were Jean episodes, and then when it wasn't a Jean episode, she had nothing going on. She was just kind of there at times. I did not really care for live action versions. Like, I'm like, yeah, cool. Like Jean Grey, she's going to become Phoenix. Oh my God. Wow. But I rewatched the Dark Phoenix Saga and the Phoenix Saga and Dark Phoenix Saga, and I was like, oh man, like nothing's ever come close to this version of the story. And then I think that in 97, they elevated more and gave her a lot more pathos, which is very nice to see. The whole her and Madeline thing, the birth of Cable, and then how it just goes, and she consistently is just there. She is the mother of the team on repeat all season long. It's really nice to see a strong, I would consider an Omega level threat in terms of what she can do, just be able to have an emotional weight to everything she's got going on. And then, of course, Gambit, everybody loves Remy. Remember it. And then, of course, Dad Nito. Come on. You give me a long hair, you give me a character and you give him long hair, I'm probably going to love him. That's a fact. Magneto out here slaying with the gray locks. I mean, new cosplay unlocked right there. I can't wait to gray my hair out for that one.
Live action Magnetos have always been incredible, but this Magneto, and I agree with you, the Jean too, big upgrade over the original animated series. Adam, who, like we talked about this a lot, especially in the early episodes, You didn't watch the original X-Men the animated series. So you kind of got to, throughout this episode, grow with the characters, with the arcs told in the story, who developed by the end into your standout and favorite characters.
Oh, well, I mean, it was Magneto for me. Like, absolutely. That was my guy. And I echo everything that these two, that David and Thomas just said right there. There's nothing else for me to add on like the show as a whole and the characters and everything, because they know everything perfectly. The thing that I want to talk about before we get into the nitty gritty of this episode, and I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts as well, is I think the MCU so sorely needed like a 100% guaranteed win like this in the television department. Like, I know we've had a lot of banger movies over the last few years, but if you scroll back and look through like the Disney Plus series, and that's not to say that people don't like them. Like, what I'm saying here is not that, oh, they've had a lot of shows that nobody liked. Like, no, but we haven't had anything like this since they started doing Disney Plus shows that was just universally beloved. Like, I know everybody was looking forward. Like, it was like when WandaVision was going on, everybody was waking up at 3 a.m. We loved it. But then as we kind of got to the end of that series, I feel like universally, most people thought it lost a lot of its magic, especially by the finale, which I think at that time we were all a little guilty also of expecting Doctor Strange to pop up and get this crazy big cameo fest. And then the actor that Paul Bettany was talking about was just himself. And then the show ended and that was it. But with this, it feels different because it's like there's been no nitpicks that I've seen. And even the people that they're like, oh, X-Men 97 sucked, like this and that. I haven't seen anybody, and this isn't to say that everybody has to love this show. If for whatever reason, I haven't seen anybody that doesn't, but if somebody, if for whatever reason this wasn't somebody's jam, that's fine. But I don't think anybody can distinctively point to like several things, whether it's characters, story, things, arcs, like anything like that, where it is so obviously bad that if somebody points something out, you couldn't pretty easily at least like counter it or like critique their criticism, for lack of a better word, because this feels like as well-rounded and good of a project as we've gotten. And just in terms of the TV department, because like even for me, I really like some of the best projects I think structurally are like, obviously I think Loki's really, really good. Miss Marvel, I think, is really, really good. Even though Miss Marvel for me experienced a pretty heavy dip in those middle two episodes when they went away and then they came back and stuff. But I can't I see a lot of surrounding those shows, which are like a couple of my favorite shows. I saw a lot of criticisms when they're going on that I'm like, like even if I don't agree with that, like I get it. I see where you're coming from with that. And there's a lot of people that didn't like it. So it was refreshing to get to see this. And I guess the X-Men are the perfect group of people to do this with, to prove to everybody that like, hey, Marvel TV can really fucking kick ass. It can be perfect. It can be as good as the best movies that they've done. Cause like I said, they've had great movies. That's why I wanted to be sure I made the distinction here, because I think with like Shang-Chi, Wakanda Forever, Guardians of the Galaxy, like they've had some really, really great movies. Like they've had some missteps too, because there's been, 10, 12 of them, however many there's been, but still they needed this so badly just to prove to all the people that were like, yeah, they need to stop making TV or whatever, because they hadn't really done a universally good job of it. So I don't know. I'd love to hear what y'all think about that, because to me, as much as I love the show, like everybody said, I'm in agreement with everybody. It's been so refreshing to not have to deal with so much negative discourse, because it feels like through every Marvel show, by the time we get to episode 2 or 3, the discourse is just exhausting, and I'm almost ready for it to be over because I'm so tired of hearing people argue about it all the time, one way or the other.
I would love to see, I'm still excited to see all the upcoming Marvel shows that they have. I would love to see a Young Avengers TV show sometime. I don't think there's very few things higher up on my list than that. But I would love down the future, once they are introducing mutants into the MCU, if for just like 5 straight years of Disney Plus shows, it's all shows of various mutants, different factions of X-Men, different factions of mutant teams, because there's so many that you can't cram all the good ones into a movie of 2 hours, 2.5 hours, and give them all their chance to shine. So I would love if we get a span of a few years that it's all just mutant television. Before I throw it to TCR and David, Adam, I want to ask you 2 kind of ranking questions based on that television thing. Where would I know it's with an asterisk? It's with an asterisk because I know ranking animation compared to live action, there's so many different things you can do in both. It's so hard to compare them. But where would you rank X-Men 97 among the other MCU television shows?
I think this is pretty definitively, to me, the best show that we've gotten, like universally top to bottom, no roller coaster. And like, I'm not going to say everybody, has to be everybody's favorite, but I don't remember. And this was also like longer. I mean, I know we had WandaVision was also 9 episodes, if I'm not mistaken, either 8 or 9. So this feels like this went on longer because, so many other MCU shows, we get 2 or 3 episodes at a time, and then they're only 6 episodes. So they really only go on for like it feels like only a couple of weeks. It was so nice for this to be 2 months of just straight high quality television. So, and that's totally fair. Comparing animation and live action is a little difficult, but I don't really think it's that complicated as long as we're sticking to TV shows. Like, I'm not going to pit X-Men 97 against movies or like try to rank it just amongst all the like post in-game projects. But
what's better, Infinity War or X-Men 97?
Infinity War, no question. Don't you dare disrespect the best Marvel movie and maybe even the best comic book movie ever. How dare you disrespect it like that?
I thought you were going to say maybe the best movie ever, and I wasn't.
No, okay. No, I'm not going to be like,
let's do it. Yeah.
I'm not going to go quite that far, but no, I mean, for me, I think because I'm always, I usually rank things on terms of like whether I have 2 rankings, like favorite and also what I think is the best, because I think those are very often 2 different lists. But this kind of nails the top of the charts for both of them for me. I think this is my favorite Disney Plus show, and I also think it's the best.
Now, compared to other top animated shows that we've got recently, Invincible, Bad Batch, My Adventures with Superman, Arcane, shows like that, and now even watching Legend of Korra, you've recently rewatched Avatar: The Last Airbender. In terms of seasons of individual television, you don't have to make a ranking, but where would you put X-Men 97 among these other top shows?
I feel like that question you just asked me could be hammered out in like a 2-hour podcast alone. Just that one thing, like ranking animated seasons of television. That's a really great question. I don't think it reaches, if I'm just doing individual seasons, I'd say I don't think it reaches some of the highs for me personally of like Avatar, the original Avatar, The Last Airbender. I think that's one of the best 10 to 15 shows ever made, period. Not live action, not anime, just like television shows, period. But I think it's right. I think this is every bit. It's hard for me to compare something like this to Invincible, just because it's almost easier for me to compare X-Men 97 to other MCU shows than it is X-Men 97 to something like Invincible, with like the maturity rating and they're telling such different stories. Like, I know it's like you can group them together in animated superhero TV shows, but to me, X-Men 97 and Invincible are so much different than like X-Men 97 and Loki or something, just because I feel like the audience is so different and everything. So I'd probably still put Invincible above it, but oh man, that you really put me on the spot with this one, because now like whatever I say here, when we go off the air in an hour, I'm going to be just mad at myself because I'm going to be thinking about it the whole time. And there's no answer that I can give that I'm satisfied here. So I'll just say, I don't think it gets up to the Avatar: The Last Airbender level, but I think it can hold its own with only room to go up from here too. It can hold its own with everything else for sure.
Yeah. I don't think it hits my like top that I've seen of my adult life in terms. I think like there's parts of Star Wars Rebels that I don't think anything else animated has hit those peaks of for me. But X-Men 97 to me gave me the exact same feeling as I was watching as Invincible. I'm having fun and I have no idea what the fuck is going to happen next. It's always just anything can happen. And that's really the feeling that it gave me. David, you got 3 prongs before we pass it off to TCR to do the same. You get 1, impact on Marvel television going forward. Was this a necessary dub? 2, where does it rank among your MCU shows, and where does it rank among other top animated shows?
Yeah, I mean, I think it meant a lot for Marvel Studios television, right? Where I think in general, after the Marvels, which was such a defining point at the box office, it was the least successful MCU movie ever, which was a stunning kind of revelation there at the end of 2023 that this could happen, right? The floor could really bottom out like that. And in general, what that proved to me was that not everyone has been locked into the MCU like they used to be, whether it's TV, whether it's movies. That was really the proof, because if you look at Captain Marvel, in 2019, that was proof that everyone was locked in. Everyone was eating what they were being fed from Marvel Studios. So I think in many ways, X-Men 97, while it is Marvel Studios, some people don't really even compare it to the MCU because it is so different. It is its own thing. However, what I do think this show did was really, I think, up the quality in terms of what people are expecting out of a Marvel animated show today. Because I think What If's okay. You know, if you want to make that like that tight of a comparison, just Marvel animation to Marvel animation right now in terms of, 97 to What If, I don't think it's really even a fair question in many ways. I thought Loki was excellent. Just kind of transitioning into the next question. I still think Loki's better than this series. And honestly, I'm just bigger I'm bigger on live action. I just enjoy live action content more than animated. Like I haven't seen a lot of other animated shows that are even relevant right now. Like I'm not caught up on Invincible, for instance. I didn't finish the Superman show. I forget what it was called.
My Adventures of Superman.
Yeah, and I like that. I just haven't finished it yet, which I kind of want to, because I actually was really into that show when I was watching it. But with all that being said, this one to me, just based on information that I've seen online and reactions, it's been really cool to see. This hasn't all been nostalgia bait. I think a lot of people, like for me, it wasn't. I didn't know the series. I think a lot of people have really wrapped their arms around this series and see it for just what it is. And in a way, it's I really don't know what impact it's going to have on the MCU besides maybe their future storytelling, because I think a lot of people aren't really equating this to anything MCU. I don't think many people, maybe outside this podcast, are really even like comparing the two in many ways, where it's like just anecdotally, naturally, I wouldn't naturally be like, hey, did you like 97 or Loki season 2 more? It's like, what kind of question is that? It's like, it's hard to compare. Personally, I like Loki season 2 more. But that's just me. And I think I feel like there's so many people that watched one and maybe not the other that aren't just hardcore Marvel fans that watch everything. Because they were there for totally different reasons. It's such like an isolated show, X-Men 97. It doesn't have anything to really do with the MCU. So it's really interesting. I hope and pray that Marvel does more of this, though, where they do animated shows that don't have anything to do with the MCU, and they're just quality, and people that wrote them and animated them really care about the quality. It's cool to see, because in many ways, they're trying to slow down now. We saw Marvel Studios just try to pump everything out, series after series, movie after movie, and obviously they're kind of regretting that now. They're holding on to shows. They're trying to slow down their production, slow down their releases. But, once again, X-Men 97 is a shining light in that. And I think an X-Men 97 show could go on for seasons at this point, and audiences would stay on the hook the whole time.
For me, the biggest thing this did for Marvel Studios and Marvel's television was serve as a reminder that they did not have access because they were almost bankrupt. So they had to sell off the movie rights to all of their biggest characters. So they didn't have access to any of their biggest characters when they launched the Marvel Cinematic Universe. People forget that outside of hardcore fans, no one gave a shit about Iron Man, about Captain America. Captain America had some niche fans. Barely any people even knew who Iron Man was, unless you read comic books.
Yeah.
The X-Men, Spider-Man, and to a slightly lesser degree, but still up there, the Fantastic Four, that is Marvel's bread and butter. That always has been Marvel's bread and butter, and they have levels of fan bases that are different than just comic book readers. It's large sums of people across the globe that absolutely adore these characters, even if they've never picked up a comic book before. So that was the biggest thing to me, is that it serves as a reminder that even though the MCU may kind of be like a bar graph with some lulls, or sorry, not a bar graph, but like a graph with some lulls along the way, I think we're going to be reaching higher peaks than maybe even Endgame and Infinity War level deep down the future, because of what they still have in the bank to work with. TCR, how about you? I don't even remember what the questions were.
Me either.
Rank it compared to the other Marvel shows we've seen. And I know you're into lots of animated stuff, especially like Star Wars. It's tough to compare one thing to another, but large ensemble of characters, how would you compare it to maybe some of the top tier seasons of Clone Wars?
Yeah, I know. And David's only seen one season of Clone Wars. He
not
hates
true.
animation. He's the hater of animation.
I've seen all of Rebels proudly. They call me a
Yes.
rebel.
Yes, finally.
That's my biggest, honestly, like that is the first thing on my resume. I have seen every episode of Star Wars Rebels.
It's goated, so you know,
It's a great
you
show.
should. I think it's the highest rated Star Wars anything ever on Rotten Tomatoes. So keep that.
As it should be.
I would compare it to. So I do love animation. I've been very busy, so I've not been able to really dive into a lot of stuff with Bad Batch. Bad Batch was, I was like, yeah, Bad Batch. Venture showed up, and then after Venture showed up, it like to me took kind of a dip. And that's about the same time X-Men came out, and it's like, oh, okay. So I would watch Bad Batch first thing in the morning, and then I'd watch X-Men, and I would forget that I have to do a podcast in 2 days on Bad Batch, and I would remember nothing of it by the time we were recording because I could not get rid of X-Men in my head. I would say X-Men is probably top 5 animated season of all time. Like there are a lot of options. But you know, I love the Spider-Man animated series. That has some of the greatest. I mean, the storytelling in that is sequential. It's, you know, every season is this part 1 through whatever. Love that. It's a genuine event every season. And this is its own event every episode, like, or the whole season is just one giant event. Like, oh, we're getting together to go know each other. By the way, here's this situation, which is going to come back later on in the season. Oh, here's this situation, which is going to tie in later. There's only one episode that I would consider lower tiered. Like all the others are like, oh, it's like top tier, and it's the Mojo episode. And you know, after life, after death, part 1 or whatever it was, that's the weakest episode, and that's still better than some of the other animated episodes that have come out in, say, the Bad Batch this season. It's probably on the higher end of storytelling because of what they do. Ranking it against other MCU stuff, it's in my top 2 with Loki. You want to compare, you know, apples and oranges, let's just say 12 episodes versus 10 episodes. I think Loki has one episode that's a little bit lower tier than the rest in terms of the storytelling. Maybe not so much the storytelling, but the energy that you feel while watching it. And it's around the same point in the season as X-Men 97 has. I think both are exceptional. They both do things very, very differently. But I think they're head and shoulders above everything else is 1 and 2. I don't really know which one I have at 1 and what I have at 2. David knows. I'm not going to rank it unless I have to. So there's no gun to my head. So I'm going to take my leave. What did it do for Marvel Studios? It gave the absolute guaranteed W that they needed. And 100% offered a glimpse into what is truly possible with taking your hands off the steering wheel and saying, hey, go do this. Which we also have other examples of that didn't work out so great, right? But I think that's the key. It's like, hey, you know, we don't know how involved Kevin Feige was, but it sounds like Bo DeMayo came in, pitched what he wanted, and knew exactly the story he was going to tell in terms of just the beats. Then you add in the depth of understanding the characters from the original series, meaning you bring in people that know about this series, know about this content, these characters, know about the comic books, what to bring in, what to do. And that is a whole different way, I think, of focusing on storytelling in the MCU than we've had, outside of maybe the Russo brothers, who loved the comic books, who loved the characters they were working on and wanted to honor the comics in different ways. James Gunn, he didn't necessarily know about the comic book characters, but once he kind of understood who they were, he fell in love with them. And that's what makes it. You got to get people that love the characters. And I think that's kind of the key that MCU should be going forward with. especially if we're going to be playing around in other multiverses. I think that would fall in very well. I don't even remember who is the director of Fantastic Four anymore.
Matt
Shaq-
Not
Shackman.
John Watts, right? Nat Shackman. So if I remember right, he was a big fan of Fantastic Four. Oh my God, what did I heard him on a podcast. Maybe it was with Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin on the Fat Man Beyond back in WandaVision era. And I think he talked about the Fantastic Four being one of his go-tos that he always enjoyed growing up. So there's a lot you can learn from this. And I think the most important thing is not everything has to be in the sacred timeline. And you can tell a great story and utilize one being the Watcher to tie it back in later on when you need to.
America Chavez.
America Chavez, actually even better than the Watcher because she can get involved. I actually think that I'm questioning, will anything that we saw here be subtly referenced in Deadpool and Wolverine? And I just mean that in like a character name drop. Like maybe Bastion gets mentioned in live action for the first time in Deadpool and Wolverine, right? That's the one thing I can think of. Mentioning Genosha, things we've never gotten in live action, getting like, oh, like a wink and a nod to the camera, which might actually be a wink and a nod to the camera with the fourth wall break.
Can we Deadpool going? Can we get Spider-Man? No, we can't use Spider-Man for this. But they just used him in X-Men 97.
That'd be awesome.
I got a question. TJ, you inspired me with and I know we've been going for 45 minutes. We haven't even talked about the episode, but honestly, I'm having a blast. So I don't even care. You inspired a question to me because it's something that I've heard people like MCU fans and comic book fans kind of go back and forth on. You know, people always talk about that thing that you said, and you're absolutely right that before the Avengers kicked off in live action, nobody gave a fuck about Captain America. Nobody gave a fuck about Iron Man, all these characters. I won, and I hear, like I was talking to our fellow agent TJ Pistilli, the Fat Thor. We were talking about this a while back, and I remember him saying, "Just you wait. Like if you thought people cared about it, like Endgame and Infinity War, just wait until we get to Avengers versus X-Men, and we get these crazy X-Men stories." And okay, I wonder if there's been just with like how good everything that we got throughout the entire Infinity Saga was, and how much people care about these characters now. I wonder if there's been kind of like a paradigm shift that's now impossible to climax at that same level. Like I personally have my doubts that they can ever reach that. Like there's no matter how good of stories that they tell, that they can reach like Endgame Infinity. Avengers Endgame made like $800 million opening weekend. That's more than like hardly any movie makes ever. And it made that much in opening weekend. And I know I'm thinking about, like, say right now, I think I know what the answer. Like if they announced Avengers versus X-Men coming in 2027, or if they announced basically Avengers 2012 2.0, we're bringing back the original six for what nobody knows how they're going to do it. We're bringing back RDJ. We're bringing back Chris Evans. We're bringing back him, all of them for a movie. Say you put those like side by side, like let's say we split the timeline in two right here, right? And you divide it up into two different multiverses where we get each of those two movies. Which one is the public more excited about? Like, because to me, it feels like it's the Avengers. Like, even if they spend the next 4 to 5 years telling X-Men stories, I don't think they could get the general public to care about the X-Men as much as the general public currently or did at its peak care about like Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans and Chris Hemsworth and Scarlett Johansson and all them, because I just don't know if they could like reach those same miles. What do you, when you started talking about it, that question popped into my head and I was like, I could ask it later, but it fits so much better if I just ask it right now. So I had to get it out right now. I'd love to hear what y'all think though.
Yeah. I mean,
David,
I think that, yeah. Well, I mean, it's a crazy question. It's hard to wrap my mind around it because I think for X-Men versus Avengers to really hit the way they want to, it would need to be more down the line than 2027 because it's like, what X-Men? You know, like who are we getting? Is it going to be the gang that shows up and probably dies off in Deadpool and Wolverine? You know, like we have Hugh Jackman back and that's just going to be a cameo fest of seeing a bunch of old mutants from the older movies, it seems like. And I think that'll be, I mean, honestly, in a way, like Deadpool and Wolverine will be a telltale sign of like, will this work? You know, do people care about the X-Men? Because they've really been trying to make this not be Deadpool 3, but make it a Deadpool, Wolverine, truly like mutant X-Men kind of movie, like they really are trying to lean into that. So, but to answer that question directly, I do think there would be more hype for a 2012 revival reunion Avengers movie right now if it was releasing in 2027. I do think just getting, I mean, a lot of people would be mad, but would still buy a ticket. Like just bringing Downey back is a very controversial thing, which I don't know if they'll ever do. But if they did, I still think it would sell tickets and win at the box office, like because he's such an iconic character. And to your point, just to kind of say this really quick, I don't think there's ever a way to reach the pinnacle that was box office wise. We'll see. It still seems doubtful, but there's no way to reach that pinnacle of Infinity War Endgame because you're never at this point. It's irreversible at this point. There's no way to ever have as tight of a universe as that was. Only movies spanning over this certain amount of time, everything worked together. Like there's the Marvel television argument of canon, but that doesn't matter because all these movies all work together. Everyone knew everyone, and everyone went and saw it. It's going to be really hard to ever recreate that because I think that's kind of the issue right now. It's not as tight as it used to be. Not everyone knows what's going on. There's always new characters people don't even know about because they haven't been watching Disney Plus. And I can't blame them in a sense because not every show has been a banger. Not every show has been 97. Not every show has been Loki, in my opinion. And that's kind of the difficult part they're in right now.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And I'll just say too, that especially was a great point too, that I think if Avengers versus X-Men is going to work, they're going to need way more time than just like, hey, we're doing it in a couple of years. Like, even though we haven't established the X-Men. So I'll even amend it a little bit to give that side a little more leeway. And then TCR, I want to hear from you next, just because I know TJ is dying to answer this question. So I'm going to torture him and just make him wait even longer. Say we give them, let's give the Avengers versus X-Men side as much time as they need, even if they say, all right, we're going to do it in 2035. We're going to spend the next 10 years building up the X-Men or however long that they need. Even if they do that, but then say, even at the end of that timeline, we're bringing back the Avengers 2012 thing. Do you think with however much time they had that they could still get people to care about these characters, like new characters, as much as they did the original?
The original, like new characters as in the X-Men or new characters as in the Avengers? Because 10 years is a long time. I think the only way you're really going to pull in the crowd, especially with how I say this, but there's a certain line from Scott Summers, which he just yells at Captain America. He's like, Captain America, shut. And if I'm not mistaken, it's an expletive. And it's like, shut the, blurred words up. And then he just goes full Phoenix Force into everybody and starts, slaughtering some people. So there's certain things that really, I think, need to go into it, but nobody wants to see, in my opinion, the X-Men at their peak, their squad, the ones that we know from 97, those characters, versus the non-original Avengers from the universe that we have. I think the only way it really does truly unequivocally work is if we have our original 6 plus everybody else versus the X-Men, because the X-Men roster is so mother effing deep that it's actually ridiculous. I think you can probably sit down and name 30 mainstay X-Men characters / mutants that would be on the X-Men side. And I'm going to go ahead and include Wanda and Pietro on that. They would probably fall on the X-Men side, fall on the bloodline. Shout out our tribal chief to really go against the Avengers. But you want to talk about the box office, like Deadpool and Wolverine is a beautiful test because the highest grossing X-Men movie is Deadpool 1 with $363 million. I don't see whether or not that's domestic or not, or if that's everything. That's just domestic.
Yeah.
Okay.
It got like 8, I think. It got Adam, you're muted, but I think it got up to like 800 for international.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say, because I was 700 or 800 million something internationally, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, see, it'd be super great if I actually had that. Thanks, Box Office Mojo. You failed me yet again. Because it would be Wolverine, obviously, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine goes around the world. Like, that is people's childhood. That is people's adulthood. He's unequivocally the best non-Magneto or Xavier character out of all the live-action X-Men movies. He's also the most recognizable, the only person to play that character, the only person to play a character in the X-Men just, one time through multiple various timelines and multiverses and all that. But you could do something in Deadpool and Wolverine, which gives us glimpses of, say, certain actors that we've seen in the past playing certain different versions of themselves that kind of line up more with their tried and true versions, which we see in X-Men 97. We could see James Marsden being a genuine Cyclops, in a couple glimpses. And then we go in and it comes to a Secret Wars of it all. And we could be like, oh, well, we're bringing back all the X-Men, but like, we're bringing back the X-Men, and we could mishmash different versions, different actors with them. Like, you want to know my personal favorite Magneto? It's Michael Fassbender. Love Ian McKellen. Absolutely love him. Got nothing bad to say about him. But I mean, Michael Fassbender, first off, long hair, gray, slay. All right. Sexy man right there. I'd cosplay that. And so, like, you bring back someone of his caliber of an actor who everybody loves, and you put him against somebody like, I mean, it'd be really great to see him versus Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I mean, like, think about that. You put him against somebody as Sam Wilson, Captain America, right? You can have great dialogue. You can have emotional dialogue. You can have, I mean, think about that. What I just said, actually, that'd be a great scene. Two people marginalized, been through horrible things in their life, doing everything they could to try and better the people that don't like them. And by, because Magneto, that version, has tried to help humanity at times, only to be turned on. Sam understands that just as well. They can have this nice, great discussion at the end. It's like, I guess we're going to have to fight kind of situation. I think it really does only work if we bring back the X-Men characters, the X-Men actors from the past, mishmash them together. That's fine. And we get the modern day Avengers and bring back the old X-Men, old Avengers as well, the OG 6. We push it out 10 years. I don't think it works. I'm not sure it can work. And I love that I'm doubting it in a 10-year time span, because that just means there's a lot of time to be proven wrong.
I don't think Avengers versus X-Men will be the thing. I don't actually think that's the route they're going to go. And one of the reasons why is just like a storytelling perspective. Mm-hmm. It would have to have some major shifts between now and then, and it couldn't work with the OG team, because there's not a chance in hell Marvel Cinematic Universe Captain America wouldn't side with the X-Men. He'd immediately be like, oh shit, you guys have a great point. No, I'll join you. It doesn't work that way unless they're written as antagonizing to each other. But what I'll say in terms of X-Men and just like Fantastic Four, X-Men, future MCU products reaching the peak of what we have had, I think so much of it, and I agree with you guys, I think Deadpool and Wolverine is going to be the first big test to see, to gauge that interest, especially from a box office perspective, because I don't know if we will ever, maybe like David, I think you do a lot more box office research than I do, so you'd have a maybe better idea of this than me, but yeah. I don't know if we ever see the same box office peak that we did pre-pandemic in our like near future lifetimes.
Yeah, I mean, overall box office, like outside of all of this, just like annually, we may not, just because there's not enough theatrical releases these days, and there may continually not be movies, which doesn't necessarily mean there won't be the heights, right? Like, I think Secret Wars could go crazy, because I think Secret Wars is going to have like Tobey Maguire and Hugh Jackman, and like it's going to be insane. But overall, no, I mean, we may not, but there still could be those like crazy high blockbusters like Marvel could do.
And until we, like, I think movie theaters need to make a bit of a economical shift, because it's no longer a place where you can take your family multiple times a year for most people, multiple times a month, even if you're well off.
Yeah.
You can't do it. And so I think in order to create lifelong fans, which is what you need to do to keep the success of the MCU going long term, I think the potential for the X-Men to reach higher peaks is there because the base level of fandom from before they started is way bigger. But it all depends on the storytelling. The reason we care about Avengers Infinity War and the fact that they lose at the end, which was also very unprecedented, was because of the years, not just the amount of movies spent with the characters, because we fell in love with them. It's because you fall in love with Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, with Chris Evans as Robert Downey Jr., sorry, Chris Evans as Captain America, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
The Guardians too.
The Guardians, Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther, Natasha Romanoff as Black Widow, etc. Spider-Man, you fall in love with them, and so it'll all depend on the storytelling. In
100%.
X-Men First Class, when they tried their first reboot, they make you fall in love with Charles and Magneto, or at least invest in them, kind of in Beast and Mystique, and none of the other characters. They don't make you give a damn about anyone else. And so who cares about bringing any of them back? Because we don't give a damn any about them. We do Hugh Jackman's Wolverine because we've seen him suffer. We've seen him grow. We've seen him win. And so we've fallen in love. And so I think it'll all depend on the storytelling. I think the potential is there, but it's by no means a guarantee because you've got to execute. You got to execute. You got to.
Yeah. I was going to say, there's a great point you made there on like the investment, you know, and it does dictate a lot with Hugh Jackman coming back because he is in so many movies. Like he has appeared as the character so many times, and like getting to see those characters again, there is something to it. Like there's something magical of seeing Toby back in No Way Home, you know, and even Andrew Garfield in No Way Home, but like especially Toby because he had that full trilogy. And I do think like, before we move in, like, and we can obviously move off this whole Avengers talk soon, but like before we move into like the future mutant storytelling, I do think Kang Dynasty to an extent, and I think Secret Wars for sure, whatever Avengers 5 is going to be, maybe not Kang Dynasty now, and Secret Wars is going to be more of that kind of nostalgia bait of characters and actors that is so they invested in so much early on, so now we have to care. You know, everyone just cares now, and that's really a great point. Like bringing back the original four, like. We all love them partially, like we fell in love with them, but we got so much of them, you know, like Robert Downey Jr. is in so many movies besides Iron Man 1, 2, and 3. Tom Holland at this point, so many more movies than Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3. So it's just really cool to see. And they haven't done that yet. Like these new fate, like with the TV shows, it's so spread out. You know, there's so many characters now, heroes, main heroes, titles of the shows we've only seen in that one fleeting project. And I think that's something they needed to change to kind of make it feel a bit more cohesive and make us as general audiences actually, you know, once a year, a few times a year, go to the box office, go to the movie theater and go see a movie, really like care about the universe again.
And that's something I think that X-Men 97 did very well, is it weaves in different characters from different expanded universes from the 90s, and they throw them in there. Some of them may be a little bit gratuitous, but they did such a great job of storytelling that the gratuitous cameos felt like fun extras as opposed to the main course. They felt like a really impressive garnish as opposed to the main course. And so it is now finally time, an hour into the episode, to dive into the episode that we're going to be talking about, part 10. If anyone has something come up and has to leave, you know, just fire me a message. We'll transition you out. Make sure you plug your stuff. And because this may end up taking close to 2 hours, which wasn't the intent, but it is what it is. That's what happens when you're talking about great stuff with friends. Adam, when the episode begins, Professor X and Magneto, we get a flashback to their meeting for the first time. Very X-Men First Class-esque. They don't know each other or are mutants yet. And they build that first connection, especially on Charles' side, with so much naivete. It's friends with a dream. And then they want to just do right, and they have no idea the amount of troubles that they're going to go or that they're going to come across in their lives. And that's revealed pretty immediately when you clue in that this isn't just a flashback. This is Charles who just broke into Magneto's mind.
Dude, that the characters going into others' minds and breaking down that's like a trope that they could use it a million times for the rest of my life, and it'll work for me every time. I love it so much, especially with Charles and Magneto. We get it because I'm pretty sure we talked about this last week. They are basically like two sides of the same coin in terms of what they want and what they desire. But they're getting there. They've gotten there very different ways. They've taken very different paths by the nature of the trauma that they've dealt with over their lives and everything. So that's why their views are so different now. But at the end of the day, like if you break it down to its most bare bones, like the most fundamental concepts and principles, they want the same thing. They want mutants to be accepted. Magneto's a little more extremist in that he doesn't give a damn if humans have to, like if humans are along with them or not. Like, or I guess not even be accepted was the wrong word for both of them right there. They both want mutants to be safe and to be free. But like Charles also wants them to be accepted. Whereas like Magneto couldn't give it, like I said, if they wipe out all the humans, he doesn't care. But I always love seeing so much, whether it is, I love the first class shout that you gave right there too, whether it is in live action or animation. I love learning about their relationship, especially early on, because it's like, it's really sad, right? They used to be such good friends, but by the nature of all these things happening, another thing like we talked about last week, I'm like, man, I get what he's saying. Like Magneto, in terms of, I'm like, I get it. I know you're going about things the wrong way, but I can't say that you're wrong. And that's what makes a great quote unquote villain, is when you're always questioning the motivations of like both sides. Cause you're like, man, I see where he's coming from. So getting to go into his mind and just learn more about their past and connect with him more than I already had, which was a lot, because I absolutely loved Magneto over the course of the season. So getting to spend more time with him in a different stage and kind of do it through that outlet, that was great. I loved all of it.
And it's such a interesting balance between the two of them, where you see them conversing just with their ideals, not all the complicated aspects that come with it, but just their ideals, and how they get so close to agreeing, except for at the end. And what it comes down to is Charles was born from a place of privilege. Even though he's a mutant, he can hide his mutant powers. He was born from a place of privilege. All the money in the world came from a very easy, quote unquote, easy childhood, aside from just, not having very parents caring about him. But then there's Magneto, on the other hand, who grew up in the Holocaust and who had as much trauma and difficulty growing up as humanly possible, or mutantly possible. And he's felt it. He's seen it. He's, no matter how empathetic Charles is, no matter how much he can see what happens to Magneto in his mind, no matter how good of an ally you are, if you can't experience it, you haven't been through that, you can't totally understand. And that was such an interesting aspect of their conversation, David. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I just loved I one thing with the criticism I had of the series actually was the whole like, oh, Professor X is dead and then he comes back in the series, because I didn't know like that whole storyline or anything. So like his transition to being back in the show was kind of shocking for me. But seeing him, Professor X in this episode was awesome. And seeing that ability in use was just his superpowers are so cool. It's one of those super simple, like 8-year-old thoughts. I'm like, man, I would love to be able to do that. This is so cool. Like it's OP again, like where you always see like these kinds of like overpowered characters, say it's like Jean Grey, Professor X, Storm, even in this series, like kind of for some whatever reason get like pushed to the side because they need to have like a bit of like a handicap. It was so cool seeing it on full display, and the animation was awesome. And like future spoilers for the later part of the episode, like seeing Magneto and Professor X like powers almost like colliding and like morphing, that you can only see in animation. And that I think is one of the coolest aspects and elements they gave us with this show, and especially with this finale.
One of the parts I do think is really interesting about their power sets in particular is there are characters, Storm, Jean, heck, even Iceman, and like a few other characters who maybe are more powerful in terms of potential of what they'll be able to do, but they haven't maybe been around, aside from maybe Storm, they haven't been around the block quite as long. They haven't mastered the tricks and have the comfort and control to be able to go to the depths to fully utilize the true extent of their powers. Like Charles does there. He not only goes in and controls the brain, but says like, I will use the full extent of your mutant powers through your body. What did you think, TCR?
I love that they kept teasing it. They teased it last week. Maybe they teased it a few weeks ago. Like the ability to go inside and force someone to do something. So when they actually did it, shout out You know, that the comic panel, of course, that they straight up just recreate. They've done that so much this season. I'm a big fan of it. So him actually going full force, full tilt, omega level, it was beautiful. It's you can tell how much it actually hurts Charles to do this to his friend, and it kind of comes back in later on in the episode. You know, they have a discussion about that. And I don't think that's something we've ever actually seen in any incarnation of the X-Men so far, in a I would say a visual video medium, animated or live action. I don't think we've seen someone control someone else's powers before. So it was just like a kind of a new experience. And there's a fantastic pathos of like, I'm harming my brother because they're harming the world. And it's like, I don't want to do what I have to do, but I have to do it.
The interesting part for me too is I lost my train of thought, so I'm going to go on to the next thing because I was looking at something else. We get to see this plethora of Leo meme, one after Leo DiCaprio pointing at the screen, one after another, right after Charles controls Magneto's body. I remember what I was going to say. It's interesting that we kind of see the protagonist versus antagonist, and the protagonist is doing the slimy kind of thing, like going into somebody's brain and controlling them. It's one of the things that always makes Professor X kind of weird and interesting to me. It's like in X-Men Apocalypse where he meets Moira for the first time and he's like, oh yeah, I just erased her memories. It's like, dude, you did what? Like, I get that you had her best interest in mind, but why do you think you can just do? I don't know. I guess you can just do that. But anyways, Leo pointing me in one after another. We get the Silver Samurai, Captain America, Iron Man, both with the government, just hanging out, not helping out at all, just being like, we don't think you should execute Magneto Protocol. Don't bomb them, but we're not going to stop you. Doing nothing at all. We get Daredevil interacting with Cloak and Dagger with a little mini Defender style team. We get not just one, but the current Black Panther and former Black Panther, current King of Wakanda. We get King T'Chaka. We get T'Challa's Black Panther. We get Omega Red and whatever the group of Russian Avenger style people are called. We get Psylocke leading a team of mutants, one after the other. Adam, what did you think of the Cameo Fest? Were there any that you got more excited about than others, or was it more so just kind of like, oh, that's fun?
Yeah, definitely more so. Yeah, that's fun. I'm kind of a mind of like Klein was talking about this last week, and obviously I haven't watched Spider-Man the animated series, and I also seeing all these characters that we get right here was the first time I've ever seen them, and I'm like watching, I'm like, yeah, that's cool. There's a lot of other characters in the Marvel universe. They've got a big catalog of stuff that they can tap into, but it would have been better. The Captain America stuff that we got earlier in the season, a couple episodes ago, I think it was, where he gets to work with Rogue a little bit. That works better for me than just the like, hey, here they are for 3 seconds just to show them to you. And this is just a personal thing. That's like, again, I also don't have that attachment to them. So I wasn't freaking out. I'm sure for a lot of people, this was like the highlight of their year, like watching this, like, oh my God, these are all my favorites popping up right now in the show that I love. Like, I'm sure there was a lot of people that were kind of feeling that, but it was cool. Yeah, like it was cool to see him, and I would have appreciated maybe getting them a little bit more, like even if it was like a name drop or something else earlier in the season. So I don't know. It's one of those things that I enjoyed watching it, but I am never going to think it. Like I'm not going to be thinking back on it like, man, remembering that X-Men finale when all those characters pop up? No, it's just kind of a part of the episode to me. Like one of the probably like the bottom half of things that I saw.
It's what I loved about Spider-Man the animated series is it wasn't just like, Doctor Strange shows up. It's here's a 2-episode arc or 3-episode arc with Spider-Man and Doctor Strange going on a mission together and messing some stuff up, and oh wow, now Venom's here, and oh shit, why is Iron Man's here the next episode? And that's literally how an arc goes, by the way. It goes Doctor Strange directly into Venom, into Iron Man, and War Machine into Carnage. But it's
season 3, I think.
Yeah, whereas like X-Men the animated series, this was actually very on brand. Like I was doing some of the I was rewatching some episodes in advance of the 3-part finale, and you can see they'll be meeting up somewhere in Africa, and you'll just see Black Panther hiding behind a rock watching them. Like he's just there doing recon, not talking, not part of the story. He's just there. So I thought it was super interesting that they basically exclusively used characters that they had shown in universe before. David, what did you think of all the cameos?
Yeah, I mean, I thought the cameos were really cool. I thought Daredevil looked awesome just in that like one moment. I'm like, man, we need more Daredevil. I'm curious what it means for the future. Like, obviously, with Peter Parker and MJ, like that's a thing. You know, are we going to see anything else? And admittedly, I'm not a 90s Spider-Man animated kid. I'm a Spectacular Spider-Man kid. Justice for Spectacular Spider-Man, only 2 seasons. That show is absolutely goated, and anyone else can talk to a bush because I love that show. The animation style too.
At least you get to hear and see Josh Keaton in like every single project that relates to superheroes since then.
Yeah, Josh Keaton's awesome, and shout out, and like seeing Spectacular Spider-Man momentarily in Cross the Spider-Verse was really cool. But yeah, no, of course, like I'd love to see. I don't. You would think that, especially the Spider-Man MJ, the Peter MJ moment, like, come on, is that just supposed to be like our satisfying conclusion, or is that supposed to be like, hey, maybe we'll get some more from this story? Because that's not going to be in X-Men 97. If anyone thinks that we're going to get more of these characters in 97, I think you're wrong. I think we'll only get cameos like we got right now. Like the most we saw was, I would say, of Captain America this season. I think that is the maximum, the limit. But could they do more? I think if the ratings for 97 are strong enough, we could get more throwback style Marvel animation projects. Because one thing I wanted to say on this pod is I think that I know What If it is its own thing and it's trying to be MCU. That's not really my cup of tea compared to this show. I like if Marvel animation just were to become something like this, where they're just making these their own shows, you know, and these revivals are so cool. Like, because it gets into that nice territory, like you find with some movies where you're getting an audience, a demographic all over the place in terms of ages, right? Young kids probably loved X-Men 97, and then all of us on here, even older, like you kind of start to get more people to watch. And I really hope that's more the direction they go with maybe some of the cameos, kind of testing the waters. You know, the Spider-Man bit was a big test of the waters to see if it kind of would get fans' attention, maybe drop some social media, you know, churn. So we'll see. But in general, I love seeing the cameos. I don't think it takes away from anything. I think it only adds to the online chatter, really.
And I think it absolutely can be a case where you do that in Marvel animation. You make it separate, but you can still showcase multiple other shared universes within the multiverse. You can have your Spider-Man and your X-Men 97, if you do 2 different shows, have them show up in each other's and have it clear that like this is the animated universe is its own universe. And then maybe in your Secret Wars one day you'd find a way to do some type of crossover. You bring a live action character in to voice something in a multiverse project and an animation down the line. But you make them its own established thing. And then that's a way to make people care about the multiverse too, is these other universes where we've seen shows in where we grow to fall in love with the characters, like we talked about previously in the MCU as well. TCR, what did you think?
Every time they showed someone who has been an Avenger, I was just like, oh, are we going to get it next season? Avengers versus X-Men in animation? Like that would be the best place to do Avengers versus X-Men, by the way.
I agree.
We were talking about it earlier and I was like, I'm just going to hold off because it'll come back up later. That's what I personally want. We can have Captain America. We have all of the X-Men you need. Bring the Phoenix Force back because it's not going to suck in live action like it has the last 2.5 times. I'll call it a half. It was so bad it deserved another half. It's in negatives, by the way.
I don't think it's terribly used as I'm not defending this movie. Actually, you know what? I kind of am. The movie's not great, but I don't think it's near as bad as a lot of people say it is. And that's X-Men Apocalypse. I think Dark Phoenix is like aggressively worse than Apocalypse is. I don't actually think Apocalypse is all that bad. But one of the best parts is when Jean goes Phoenix mode. Yeah, free Oscar Isaac. When Jean goes, speaking of, I'm pretty sure he just got cast in Jesus as we're recording this.
He did, yeah.
But the moment in Apocalypse where she goes Phoenix mode and Apocalypse is like, all is revealed. That part's pretty cool. I like that part.
Yeah, I mean, I also will defend Apocalypse. It's not as bad as everyone says. It's a fun movie. And how they handled Jean in that movie is the best they've handled Jean ever. And then they still made Dark Phoenix. They should have just stopped while they were slightly ahead. But I think Avengers versus X-Men in animation would be peak. You've already got Iron Man, Cap, Daredevil can work, Doctor Strange, Black Panther. Those are great. You bring Spider-Man on. He's had fights against X-Men
with the Avengers and then joins the X-Men like he does in comics with starting on Team Iron Man, then swapping to Team Cap.
It'd be perfect. It'd be great to have. We've already got Hulk in the universe, Fantastic Four in the universe. They don't have a Thor. That's fine. We don't need Thor. I can't believe I just said that, but like
we need to have Thor and Storm interacting.
Oh my God, be married? Yes, 100% agree. Thank you for reading my mind.
I'm more of an Aurora and T'Challa guy personally, but that's fine.
We'll get to that later. But I think that's everybody that popped up was like, oh my gosh, are they going to set this up? Because I was looking at the trajectory of this season, the finale, the 3-part, and just going, I think they're going to do the X-Men versus Avengers. Like, it's totally set up to be done that way. We've already got Rogue and Cap. We've got Cap and Iron Man with the government. We've seen Hulk. We've seen Fantastic Four. I mean, honestly, shout out Ghost Rider. He shows up to destroy Galactus in the Fantastic Four episode that he's in. And that's the only time he showed up in any episode ever on that series.
Silver Surfer is also canon into that universe too.
Yes, exactly. So we have all these different characters. I'm like, yeah, just put them against each other because we have the perfect setup. We have the government saying, we need you guys to help us out. And the X-Men going, wow, really? You're with the government? That sucks to be you, man. Add in the Phoenix Force corrupting everyone's minds for death and chaos. It'd be perfect. That's what I was thinking. Asterisk. Bo DeMeo said that this is Peter Parker and Spider-Man found MJ, but this is set in 97 and Spider-Man, if I'm not mistaken, was canceled in 98. So I don't know how that lines up in the timeline. I'm just saying that's my qualm.
I don't think it actually is set in 97. I think it's just called that because that's when X-Men 97 ended. But I think this is supposed to be like considered multiple years later.
Well, I mean, no, it starts like it's 1 year after the end of X-Men season 5.
They say it's 1 year. It's 1 year since Charles Xavier died, but he didn't die yet at the end of X-Men 97.
By the way, time passes in this show too. Like this season,
yeah,
I feel like there was a good amount of time that passed within this show. It wasn't like 3 days.
The part I will say about the Peter and MJ part is I really liked seeing them together more than the first cameo. I will need more than a Bo DeMaio tweet being like, he found MJ, because that's how that series stopped and was canceled after it shouldn't have been so they could do Spider-Man Unlimited.
Which was not that great.
No, not at all. And we never got to find out. His Mary Jane was a clone. She evaporated. He's going through the multiverse with Madam Web to find her. Wow. So we don't know where the heck she is, where the heck she went. And so I do still really want that story. The Bo DeMaio tweet is not enough. If you're gonna tease it, I need it. If you weren't gonna give it to me, don't show him. Simply don't show him up if you're gonna give it to me. But there was pretty cool cameos nonetheless. Next we travel to Bastion doing the classic villain gloat. I have won. You guys all suck. Meanwhile, Storm's trying to approach to his humanity. This is the part of the episodes as they keep trying to do this that bothered me a little bit. Cause to me, this final arc was almost basically just like Age of Ultron, but in X-Men universe, and the bad guy created Ultron as opposed to the good guy creating Ultron. Down to the gigantic piece of Earth falling to Earth and to blow up a whole bunch of people, and all the people who are flying trying to stop it. Iron Man, why aren't you there, buddy? Why are you in an office as opposed to stopping this giant falling rock?
Iron Man's chilling this episode. He's
like,
just
you know what?
vibing
Like,
out.
Not my problem.
Spider-Man with MJ, whatever. Daredevil, what the fuck's he gonna do? Cap, what the fuck's he gonna do? Iron Man, you have to get up there, bro. Like, you have to do something. But anyways,
Great point.
Where's the Fantastic Four, right?
yeah, exactly. The whole appealing to his humanity thing didn't really vibe for me, because it was like, he has programming, like how much humanity is actually in there. But having said that, Bastion goes on to betray Sinister. He's about to kill Cable. And then, speaking of the Dark Phoenix, the Phoenix rises. Jean Grey fucks up Sinister's shit, which is nice because he's earned that. Adam, even though you hadn't seen the original series, the Sinister wasn't all that heavily involved. He was more so involved in this. We know the torture he has done to Jean and her family. How did you like Jean's major glow up with the Phoenix rising and beating him the hell up?
It was cool. It's one of those things where I think I was missing a lot of the context needed to make this the moment that a lot of people have made it out to be, having also not watched the original series. I was kind of like, wow, this is really cool to see. But I saw a lot of people like posting and freaking out about it, like, oh my God, the Phoenix. And I was just kind of like, oh, hey, I guess the Phoenix is back now, because this is the first time they've mentioned it a little bit in the show. But I haven't. Well, I know the if I'm not mistaken, the Phoenix arc in the original series is like a big deal and like a long thing that goes on and that she's dealing with. If I'm not mistaken,
though, this is kind of the first time we have seen Jean Grey the Phoenix and not Jean Grey Dark Phoenix, I believe, where this is not the Dark Phoenix, like the Phoenix Force inhabiting her body, but this is just Jean being a badass motherfucker, still being able to connect to it and having control of it, being able to be the hero, the Phoenix, because I also kind of forgot she was essentially presumed dead at the end of last episode.
See, yes. Now I'm wondering if you have those telepathic powers, because that was what I was getting ready to ask. Was I was like, when we see it in live action, the Phoenix is usually like bad, like Dark Phoenix. So I was like, that was my one question. It's amazing that you just pre-answered the question that I was going to ask, because that was the one, like, not even really a reservation thing that I was just curious about, because I know just, by the nature of not having seen the previous 5 or 6 seasons, however many it is, that there were going to be some things that probably didn't connect with me, and I'm perfectly fine with that. That's my fault for not having caught up on the stuff. I'm not going to hold that against the show, but it was really cool to get to see her level up and stuff like that. I mean, ultimately, my favorite part of, I think, that whole part where they're like fighting by the water and stuff is finally getting Sinister's, like, I love the villain that's been badass the whole time and then gets revealed to just be this coward. That's like another thing that I love. And when he was just running, like, his face was all like, ugly.
Show me my face.
Yeah. Oh God, that was
the
so
same
great,
to me.
Yeah, that was a great moment.
Yeah, that was like the highlight of that for me, because like getting to see the Phoenix and stuff was obviously really cool. But I was more personally invested in kind of getting to see Sinister bested in such an embarrassing way, just because he's been annoying the hell out of me. Like, not like in a good way, as in like, man, I want them to fuck this dude up like the whole series. So it was good to see him get his just get absolutely shit on, and like by Morph nonetheless. Like, to be the one to embarrass him like that and show himself, that was great. I loved it.
David, what did you think of the Phoenix rising and Jean getting her little Super Saiyan moment and saving the day momentarily?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Adam, because I, not as a big X-Men fan, I was kind of like, oh, okay, like there's probably some more powerful element to this that I'm not totally getting, just because I haven't like watched all the Dark. But they do reference Dark Phoenix a lot in this series. They make it clear for those that haven't seen the original show that was a thing that happened in the past. Like, I think Beast really says it like multiple times. Like, if you've noticed in the show, Beast is used as just exposition so many times. Him just talking through something, him explaining something to someone else about what's happened in the past, and just like, it works pretty well. So yeah, I mean, for me, it was cool to see, but didn't have that like huge maybe impact for some other viewers.
TCR, how about you?
Yeah, I loved the Phoenix moment. I was expecting it, mostly just because they've talked about it all season. I mean, even with the Goblin Queen, and they made it like, was she the Phoenix? Was I the Phoenix? And it's like going back and forth. And based on this moment, maybe you could argue it was Jean Grey that was the Phoenix and not Madeline Pryor. You know, tomato, potato, cilantro. I don't really care either way. This moment was fantastic. She comes up, I am Phoenix, with her dope voice. I love the way the voice changes for Phoenix. It is so, I don't know, commanding, powerful. I don't really have the adjective to really describe it. Amazing. She fucks up Sinister. What a loser. And Sinister, by the way, is like the main villain, the overarching villain of season 2, where he stations Magneto and Xavier on in the Savage Land and is controlling everyone. Comes back, turns out it was just to kidnap Jean Grey and Cyclops so that he could get their blood and their DNA and make an heir. And so when that turns back up in episode 3, I just finished all of season 2 before that. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, it's all tied back together. Anyways, that doesn't matter. Sinister is like, I don't know if you know this, Adam. He was like born in the 1800s or something like that. He's a very old man, and he steals DNA from mutants so that he can look younger and stay alive longer. Which I mostly found out from this episode when she said that. No, not this episode. Last episode or the week before, they mentioned like, oh, he's an old man. He steals mutant DNA so they can stay young. So I really enjoyed that. Morph, of course, if you don't know, was mind wiped and controlled by Sinister back in, you guessed it, season 2, to take down the X-Men. He literally was killed within 20 minutes, quote unquote, killed in the first episode of season 1.
Believe it or not, he was a character created for X-Men the animated series. He wasn't in comics beforehand. He was created for X-Men in the animated series so they could kill off a character in the first episode and create stakes.
That's hilarious. They made him to kill him. And then, you know, they did bring him back, which is at least nice and created something dark. So I really enjoyed all of that. And the way that she just uses her that was a really hard word to say, telepathic powers to recreate that thing, wipes out all the Prime Sentinels, and not just wipes them out, but like erases their programming essentially. That was another wicked OP moment, because I didn't think it was going to really disconnect the Prime Sentinels from him, but it totally did. And then from that moment on, he has like no control over any of his Sentinels at all, even after that gets taken off and destroyed.
Yeah, it was an impressive moment of events for Jean Grey, and I love a power-up moment. Like I always say, I love the Super Saiyan power-up, and the hero fucks shit up and takes all the bad guys down. But this does lead to Bastion becoming a mega Doom bot that I have to say I do. Although it was like kind of generic, you know, big bad guy gets wings and stuff like that. I thought he looked so cool. I thought he looked so damn cool, the cyborg Bastion that we got with the wings. And it leads to the X-Men kind of uniting to fight him. And Rogue, each of them have their moments, kind of like in Avengers Infinity War, or maybe even Endgame. Each of them get like a pass of beating Thanos around for a while before Thanos is like, all right, that's enough, and swats them to the side. They all get a few shots in. This starts with Rogue. His name was Gambit. Remember it. Made me tear up in the middle of the night as I'm trying to watch it. And it was just such an incredible moment. Rogue beats the shit out of him for a while, and then he obviously gets the upper hand. Cyclops gets a few really good shots in. Jubilee gets a few really good shots in as well. Meanwhile, up at the government, the Magneto Protocol is beginning to take place. They decide to nuke Asteroid M, which I don't really know what their plan was. They got so many scientists. Tony's literally right there. You didn't know this would turn into an Age of Ultron Sokovia / dinosaur asteroid situation if you blew it up. Like,
yeah.
What did you think? Like, either you're going to blow it up in total or you're going to ruin its orbit. It's like, what was the plan?
You're overestimating the U.S. government severely.
But Tony Stark is right there. That is like quite literally the issue with any like X-Men written product that does crossovers is the characters that they, to make the X-Men look better, they don't do those other characters justice. For example, Cap teaming up with the government as opposed to people when the government's suppressing them, or Tony just standing there in a room with his suit on. If it's just going to be Tony Stark without his suit, fine. But you're in your suit, Tony.
He's
Fly
in his
up and
suit.
go do something. It's kind of
But
silly.
I don't think they know he's Tony Stark in the animated series, if I remember right. That was
At
more
the
of an
beginning, they
MCU thing.
don't. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Because I don't know if you remember the Iron Man adventures. A rough ride. My least favorite of all the cartoons back then.
I remember, like, so one of the reasons I remember not minding it is I didn't know if I watched it all the way through, but I remember there was some really racist stuff with the Mandarin, so I think that stuff didn't age very well. But what I did remember about the series was I had a VHS of the whole like Venom saga throughout Spider-Man, and after the credits, if you like before you hit rewind on the VCR, after all the credits were done and it like went black, an episode of Iron Man was on it and an episode of The Incredible Hulk was on it. And it was just like the coolest things ever because like those shows weren't shown on cable as often as the Spider-Man one was. So it was just like, oh my god, this is so incredible. Anyways, the Iron Man fucking do something. If not, why are you even there? All of this is going on at the same time. Cap and T'Chaka are both like, don't shoot the nukes. And then the government's like, we're gonna shoot the nukes. And they're like, darn. And that's about it. This was a fun sequence, but I got to admit, there's so many parts of it that are like, that did make me question, like, why are these characters here if they're not going to do anything? Adam, it's a lot going on, but it was a pretty exciting back and forth between the three parties, you know, Team Gold, Team Blue, and then all the rest of the world trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, you know, it's funny when you're absolutely right that there's a lot going on because I watched this episode yesterday morning, pretty quickly after I woke up. And when you sent me the rundown a couple hours ago for everything that we're going to be talking about, you know, I first replied, I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of stuff. And I'm scrolling through it and I'm reading through these middle things like the stuff that we're talking about now. And I'm like, oh, you're right. That did happen. That is because this is so packed with stuff. There's so much going on like right in this area. It goes back to what we were talking about with all those other characters. Like if you're going to have Cap and Black Panther and Iron Man and all them there, and then when this bad shit's going to start going down, they're going to be like, damn, that's tough. All right, we'll see y'all later. Like I was like, wait, why are you going to show them in the room and show them do it? Like, I feel like from what, and I know these are completely different versions of the characters, but I'm like, from what I know about these characters, they'd get out there and start helping. Like they'd be in that shit with them. Like, hey, we're not going to let this go down. We're not going to let all these people die and stuff. But then they kind of just left it up to the X-Men. And it seemed like they more just wanted them there, for lack of a better word, just for a little bit of fan service, just to kind of have a little shiny toy kind of going on the side, give people something to look at. So that's one of those things though that knocks off like a half or not like a 0.1, 0.2 points. Like it bothers me a little bit, but ultimately isn't that big of a deal. But yeah, the middle part of this episode is packed. I know you talked about a little bit just to rewind it a little bit, the Bastion stuff. It was kind of hard for me. I was a little surprised by how much I liked Cable and how much I was invested in Cable, because when Bastion was kind of kicking his ass and then he ripped his arm off, I was like, oh, dude, don't do that. That's like I like Cable. I've grown to like Cable over these last few episodes. Don't rip his arm off and use it for your own armor. Like, I mean, that was cool, even though it is, like you said, it's generic, but it was still, I always liked that villain power up. And then it was making me wonder, how are they going to beat him? But, you know, it's the same way. Like, what does Cap say in Age of Ultron? It's like Iron Man's like the old man said, he's like, together. And that's kind of what they did. It took all of them working together to beat him. And it worked really well because I was wondering about it. Like, I was like, he seems way too strong. But then I bought into like seeing them use their powers together and come together and do that. I really bought into it. So while there was a lot going on, I thought they did a really good job of balancing everything in the middle of the episode for sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I want to quickly shout out Chris Potter, too, the voice actor for Cable, who used to voice Gambit in the 90s animated series. They told him, nope, you're not doing Gambit anymore for 97, but hey, how about you do Cable? And he's incredible. He sounds like Josh Brolin and what my brain tells me Cable sounds like mixed together. Just doing absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
David, what did you think of all the chaos we get? The battle between Powered Up Bastion and Team Blue, We also get the government sending the nukes. What were your takeaways? For me, it was that his name was Gambit. Remember it. But how about you?
Yeah, that was an incredible part. I mean, honestly, when I was sitting there kind of like watching the episode, I was just thinking like, what this Magneto protocol, how does this work? like what was the idea there? Because then when it starts happening, it's like, what was the plan? You know, like it's they're about to like completely decimate all of Earth pretty much, and it's like landing in the northeast of the U.S. I'm like, so what are we doing? Like, well, why was that?
Also, Magneto protocol, the only reason it somewhat worked is because he was unconscious. You're going to shoot a bunch of metal nukes at him?
Right. Which doesn't make any sense. And that was, I guess, kind of like a gripe with the episode. Another, like, this is a good part to get to bring up, like, criticisms. Another criticism I had of the series, I don't think Bastion, besides his power set, is that compelling of a villain, in my opinion, especially considering when he's brought into the series and he kind of becomes the big bad. And there are some elements there that were interesting. And they tried, I think, giving him an origin and stuff like that, and like kind of getting to understand him a little bit. But in general, I think besides his like look and abilities, which, you know, are shown off in this episode pretty clearly, I just didn't love Bastion as a villain overall. Like, it kind of felt like where they wanted to, almost like we were talking about earlier, like they wanted to bring someone in that we didn't care that much about. So if he died, it'd be okay. Like we wouldn't be freaking out about it. But at the same time, it felt like more so it was an evolution of the whole Sentinel storyline for me, and then trying to also just kind of create this, whatever you want to call Bastion's like prime Bastion at the end of this or, you know, during this episode, the part we're talking about with the wings and everything. That was a pretty cool reveal and became, like you were mentioning, like a pretty cool design, in my opinion.
I agree. The villain aspect was lacking a little bit for me too. And I think one of the big reasons that they chose him was probably also like, hey, who's an X-Men villain that hasn't been done before?
Yeah.
And that was a way of throwing him in there. But to me, the part of him that was most intriguing was when they were leaning into, for Bastion to become this all-powerful villain, Charles's dream has to win. Yeah. Magneto has to lose, and Charles has to win. Human beings still have to be in power for Bastion to become a villain. It wouldn't work if Magneto wiped out those humans. He wouldn't have come to exist. That to me was a very intriguing storyline of like doing the quote unquote right thing always leads down this path. We have to do something else. And then they kind of transitioned away from it. But TCR, what did you think of the string of events leading towards the Trojan horse of X-Men all coming together to fight Bastion?
Yeah, so on the Bastion thing, I felt like he was more compelling officially, like when he started. It was this episode where he was like, he wanted to be an X-Men. And he wasn't. And so he's mad. I'm like, oh, it's the Tony Stark protocol. Got it. And I was like, that's kind of annoying. But he's badass and he succeeds in a timeline where obviously Cable comes from, because mutants are slaves. They are slaves to the Prime Sentinels, and humans are now not so much humans as they are like half robots, if you will. And so it's like okay, like this is how bad he can get. And as we all know, with time plays around, things happen. I mean, Apocalypse has jumped in and out of time multiple times. He was the one Cable was fighting in the future in the original series. Now it's Bastion. Now we'll jump to something later on that apparently is a utopia Apocalypse built, which is confusing the crap out of me, but fine, it is what it is. And so there's like, you know, we're playing in time. Bastion may not be gone, but he was set up great in his first few episodes. Like, oh, I mastermind Genosha. Oh, I did this. Oh, I did that. I've created these human sentinels that are now like my slaves. Oh, by the way, I'm also connected to them. Like I am, you know, like you said, he's the Ultron. His upgrade in this episode I thought was really cool. I've seen some comic book panels that like, oh, that's actually a very comic accurate upgrade to what he becomes in the comics. So that's pretty cool. On the Magneto Protocol, what a stupid idea. What a stupid American government they have in this show. The real world would never be that stupid. Not even 12% that stupid. We would be stupider. We'd be 1,000% more stupid. It's depressing. But when you talk about Cap, like Cap's just a soldier. And we got to remember this is the 90s. This is very much pre a lot of things happening where we are literally going out in, well, let me rephrase that, where it was common knowledge that American was going out and interfering in other people's nations and politics and putting in puppet regimes, etc. So like Cap,
as if they're not still doing that though, right? TCR?
oh no, they would never do that. They would never. Do you hear me, NSA? Never. Not even if there was a fire.
Watch us on YouTube. Hit that like button so you can catch the winks.
Kill me. So, but like Cap can't really do anything. He's literally just sitting there like, I'm telling you not to do this. This is a terrible idea. It's going to make things worse. We're doing it. And he's like, shit, I'm going to have to fight these guys now. Like, that is the look I get. Like, oh no, now I'm going to be told to go fight them. And if X-Men versus Avengers happens, I'd be really intrigued to see if it turns and the Cap's like, yeah, I'm not fighting these guys. Like, you set this up, you fight your own battles. That would be really fun. Will it happen? Probably not, based on the end of this episode. So, you know, T'Chaka can't do anything either, right? For
shoot a vibranium missile at it.
Do something.
Well, we don't know if they have missiles.
They do.
The
It's
90s.
Wakanda. They have everything.
You can't make assumptions. Like, I assumed that Spider-Man was going to talk. Like, we all fail when we assume. Bring Christopher. Oh my God, what is it? Brian Christopher Daniels, something like that. I forgot. Anyways, I thought it was really fun. Like it was a lot going on. I was like, ooh, this is a
Daniel
lot.
Barnes.
Christopher Daniel Barnes. I knew it was CDB.
I knew it was Christopher, and then I always forget what the BD or DB.
Yeah, I knew we had a Christopher and a Daniel, but I couldn't remember the barn door protocol. So I absolutely loved at least getting back to the fighting stuff. Like his name was Gambit, remember it? She destroys the floor with his face, and it is wicked freaking awesome that she just tears him down. And I'm trying to remember, like, let's see, looking at the breakdown, this is she takes him on, they go to the moon, Sunspot's there, and then that's when we do the explosions, and it's now up to Cyclops' team. I don't remember which one that was.
Yeah, they Trojan horsed in there, and they and then they start fighting him as well.
Okay, that's
interestingly enough that it's Jubilee who takes the hardest shot. Jubilee fireworks him right in the face and full on melts it, which I mean makes sense. You underestimate someone and they put a fire in your face.
Yeah,
it's probably gonna hurt a little bit. I'm gonna rifle through a bit of this just so we can get out of here and like resemble something close to 2 hours here. And then if you guys want to cut me off and touch on a specific part before we get into theorizing, feel free to do so.
I just want to talk about Jubilee really fast. When she sent the razor the saw blade through the sky, like, you know, Krillin Destructo Disc that bitch, I was like, it's 5 o'clock. I was like, yes! I rewound it 3 times just to make sure. I'm like, she did the thing that I've been begging her to do since episode whatever it was, Mojo episode 4. I'm like, do the thing. And then she puts it to his face. I'm like, oh, dude, she like melted him. I found out today she can do mini nuclear explosions at the subatomic level. So she can literally just evaporate a human being with her power. I didn't know that. That's badass.
A lot of them have some pretty intense powers once they reach their full potential that we don't necessarily get to see at the beginning of X-Men stories unless you deep dive into comics. But we get some very romantic, emotional, sentimental moments throughout all of this. Shout out to our friend and Adam's colleague / boss, Maggie Lovett at Collider, the #1 Magneto and Rogue shipper, because it's super interesting as Magneto forgets everything. The first person he remembers is not Charles, actually. It's Rogue, kind of showing the deep love and bond that they have for each other. And then as Logan is recovering because he's got all that, we still don't know what the hell happened there. All the adamantium ripped out of his body when he gets back, when he wakes back up. Is he going to have his adamantium claws? Is it still going to be covering his bones, or is he just going to be back to regular bone claws? We don't know. But in that moment, Morph confesses his love for Logan, and Bo DeMaio confirmed on Twitter that that was a romantic love he was sharing. It is one-sided, though. Morph feels that to Logan. Logan does not feel that back to Morph. All is lost as it seems like the world is going to blow up until Magneto wakes up. He saves the day. The one part about this whole situation that did bother me a little bit in my first watch was that it's basically just ends and they beat Bastion with the conclusion being, be a good guy, Bastion. You don't have to be bad. You can be good like us. And that's how it felt to me the first time I watched. And it was at 2:30 in the morning, my time. Ava, my wife, woke me up to watch it. Like, it's not like I stayed up. It was, I said the night before, I was like, hey, if you're awake feeding baby in the middle of the night and you can't sleep, you wake me up and we'll watch X-Men. And so she did. Wakes me up, we watch X-Men. And I do think that being half asleep kind of took away from that a little bit for me, because I was thinking that, like, The Flash, the CW show The Flash, it's really good for the first few seasons and it falls off in a big way. And one of the biggest reasons to me is basically all their big villains, they write themselves into a corner of like, this villain is unstoppable and there's nothing we can do. And then the resolution is always like, the power of friendship will stop him. The reason we haven't stopped him yet is because we didn't believe hard enough. We let him think he could beat us, and so he was beating us. If we believe, we can beat him. And that very much is what it seemed to me on the surface, until I realized Cyclops didn't choose to appeal to his humanity again, like Storm did, and Storm joining as a way to end the battle. The battle was over. They won. They had literally their foot on top of his head, ready to squash him, with all of them surrounding him, ready to blow him to shit if they wanted to. But they chose mercy. They chose to save, because that's what heroes do. They had already won the battle. And so in second watch, that did not bother me near as much as it did the first one. I misinterpreted in the first watch. But as everything's saving the day, it looks like the X-Men are finally going to do it. They're all vaporized. And the world thinks they're likely dead. But as we could tell from the explosion, it didn't look like a real explosion. It looks timey-wimey. But the X-Men are gone. Fast forward 6 months later, Forge is recreating the X-Men. We get to see Bishop, who had kind of been sidelined throughout the entire series, despite being marketed. Season 1, despite being marketed as a big part of the team. That must be developing in season 2, because he really wasn't there at all throughout season 1. The core members are presumed dead. We don't know. We know Sunspot and Jubilee are there and with the team. We don't know about Morph and Logan. We don't know how Logan's healed and what, and but we do know Morph was with him and not in space. At least I think. I thought I remember him actually seeing Professor X do. He switched to Mr. Fantastic in space though and started doing some stretchy stuff. So maybe he ended up being there with them too. So Morph's gone, presumed dead, but he didn't show up in the post-credit scene either.
Yeah, that's the key thing. There are 3 people who do not show up at any other point after this moment, and it's like, I don't know where the ship is with Morph and Wolverine, and we don't know where Storm is. They're the only 3 that do not show up physically again. So it's like, are they dead? Are they not dead? I mean, if you know a certain scene that got cut from Days of Futures Past, if you know another scene that's in, I believe, season 4 or 5 of an alternate Days of Futures Past in the X-Men series, maybe they ended up in that weird future, because that, I don't know if you recognize that chart that he's made, but that's a cover of a comic book. It's seen 2 or 3 times in the X-Men original series. But those 3, big question marks. They have done it to me again. Where the fuck is Storm?
I know. I agree. Where the fuck is Storm? She better, like, it's annoying because when she was there, she got some great points, and then she gets sidelined to the max. TCR, what is it? What's going on?
Oh my God, what if she landed in Wakanda?
And that's how
and she's been there for 6 months with T'Chaka, living, loving,
making babies,
be the queen, because then you create
making little baby Azari.
Exactly. Then that makes another little love triangle with her and Forge and, a king, Black Panther. Like, come on. Give me
it wouldn't be T'Chaka. It'd be T'Challa. Because that's my understanding, right? T'Chaka's going around being king now, But T'Challa's still the one Black Panther in the boat.
No, King T'Chaka was wearing the Black Panther suit, if I'm not mistaken, in that.
I thought that was more like ceremonial, his old suit, and it's now T'Challa the one. Because there were scenes
don't
of
think so.
T'Challa. There were scenes of the Black Panther running around while they were still showing T'Chaka in the government scene.
Was there? Because
Yeah,
I thought that
that's what I
government scene was like, I remember one scene with Black Panther, and it was him in the Dora Milaje, the Bastion losers come in, and he slices through and just jumps down. And that was the last time I remember seeing Black Panther. And the next time I remember is King T'Chaka talking to President Stupid Face.
Yeah, same. That's what I remember too.
Another excuse to watch it again.
I definitely I thought they were King T'Chaka is former Black Panther and being king right now, and then T'Challa was Black Panthering, kind of like Civil War, but I could definitely be wrong. It might just be free T'Challa.
See, it was my understanding because I was admittedly I was confused when you mentioned earlier, and you were like T'Challa and T'Chaka Black. I was like, wait, what? I thought it was just T'Chaka because I was a little. And like again, I could also be wrong on that too. I have no idea. That's just when I watched it yesterday morning, also tired and sleepy, and not memory is still a little foggy. But I thought I did just remember seeing him, slice and dice for a little bit, and then I assumed he used some kind of portal technology or whatever to show up or talk to the president and the people in that room or whatever. But I thought it was just T'Chaka from my memory. That was what I remember.
Yeah, it's funny because my interpretation was like TJ's. I thought it was like two individual, T'Challa and T'Chaka. So it's funny. I don't know.
Surely smart people on the internet have been writing about this that we could maybe.
I was looking it up, and the first thing I saw was like, it already doesn't make sense because within universe in the Fantastic Fours show, they show the death of T'Chaka and it's T'Challa's rise to the kingdom. And so it already doesn't line up with their continuity. And so
gotcha.
I don't know, but maybe a little bit of a clerical error on that one, but still irrelevant nonetheless. We don't know where Storm is. We don't know where Logan is. We don't know where Wolverine is. An interesting part of the little sheet of potential X-Men Forge's recruiting that I found very interesting was that it says Cable is AWOL. They don't know where Cable is. One-armed Cable is, who knows? Maybe he's back in the future. Maybe he's gone, who knows where. Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch are off-world. That part was interesting to me. I wonder if that was maybe a Feige going, hey, sorry, you can't use Scarlet Witch. That's what I'm kind of wondering there, and that's why you just have her on there as off-world, so people know that she's never going to show up. Cool to see that little mention, though. And as a list of potential recruits, there is Colossus, Kitty Pryde, Iceman, Exodus, who, for those who don't know, I believe is an Omega level mutant, Havoc, Scott Summers' brother, Alex, Dust, either the first or one of the very first Muslim superheroes created by Marvel Studios. Emma Frost, one of the most powerful telekinetics, who we, of course, saw survive the genocide massacre on Genosha. Magic, who is Teleporter, the sister of, not really Teleporter, but she can cut holes and it's difficult to describe. She's super powerful. She's Colossus's sister, and she's played by Anya Taylor-Joy in New Mutants.
Oh,
and
dear God.
They will be alongside Bishop, Forge, Sunspot, and Jubilee. Say what you want about New Mutants is a terrible movie, but Anya Taylor-Joy is actually really good in it as Magic, even though the character is written kind of weird. Anyways, they're recruiting. It sets up season 2, rescuing the X-Men through time. We have Rogue, Nightcrawler, Magneto, Charles, and Beast in 3000 BC Egypt. And they're found rescuing a young En-Sabah Nur, also known as Apocalypse, the world's quote-unquote first mutant. On the other hand, we see Cyclops and Jean in 3600 AD. They meet Mother Ascani, the leader of the Ascani clan, with a young Nathan. Now, we don't know who this Nathan is. Is this a baby Cable? Is that why he's AWOL? Is this who the heck is this little Nathan? Is this a different Nathan? In the Summers clan and not a Cable, maybe it's not even a Summers. We don't know. But what we do know, and we know this because I Googled it during the show, and I had no idea who the Ascani clan was. But the Ascani
really?
clan is an alternate future group that upholds the X-Men's beliefs and are fighting Apocalypse in a future that Apocalypse won. So Apocalypse wins. He's up there, and the Ascani clan is essentially the X-Men in that universe. The thing that I find very interesting is you can see it right here, right in the middle. It's not a Nathan Summers who is working with the Ascani clan. It's a Rachel Summers. One of the, if I believe, not the most powerful Summers from Mutant Comics, either her or Hope, I can never remember. But, or I guess X-Man is also incredibly powerful. Who knows? All the Summers babies are incredibly powerful, except kind of Kid. Anyways, they're assuming to meet a group that they'll be friendly. They'll take them in, but we get the beginning of Apocalypse's lifetime, and we also get the end where he seemingly won. And this is a universe tons of years later. To me, the most exciting part about all of this is the setup for a season 2 of all these different mutant X-Men characters joining the X-Men teams, maybe in a couple different factions, searching for the other X-Men. I hope we get a lot of these new characters. I want to see Colossus, Iceman, Kitty, Magic. I want them and not just the original crew. So I hope we get expanded scenes with them. And that, to me, in season 2, when we do that, that's where you can bring in the Spider-Mans and get him involved in a full character arc. Because these new X-Men who aren't seasoned and don't know what they're doing necessarily yet are looking for help with established heroes. And so that's where I think you can bring in the Spider-Mans and things like that. I'm just excited for the new X-Men to become X-Men. Yeah, I hope we get our crew back and they all conglomerate to fight Apocalypse at the end with all the new recruits. But I'm excited to see the new recruits. How about you? What are you excited about for season 2, Adam?
Oh man, I mean, I just hope we can keep, as somebody who's not familiar, with all the X-Men stories and isn't like, oh, I can't wait to see Storm and Magneto get into, or like all these crazy things that I've seen so many people say. I just use that as an example, not that I'm looking forward to anything Storm and Magneto related. But I just hope we can maintain this same, like, I don't want to look back on season 1 of the show and be like, man, remember when they gave us this awesome season 1 and then it kind of just, they just couldn't keep up that momentum and it fell off a cliff. That's the most important thing that I want them to stay true to the characters. And it's funny, it's ironic, probably a little bit hypocritical of me to say that as somebody with as little X-Men knowledge as I have, but comparing what I do know to what I get with this, it just feels more authentic to me. This feels more like the characters, even though I'm not that familiar with them. And we've been talking about that all season, that for me, having not seen the show or read the comics, that I'm like, why haven't I been? I would love the X-Men so much more if these were the characters that I had been getting to know, because they're pretty bland. And like one of my favorite things we got, I believe it was last week. It was either last week or week before last, which is part of why I love this show so much, is that it's not afraid to poke fun at stuff. Is that whole when Scott throws his son the yellow outfit and he's like yellow spandex. And he's like, what'd you expect? Black leather? Just like directly making fun of Scott Summers' line in the original X. Like, I don't want them to lose that magic. I don't want any kind of oversight. I just want them to allow them to operate inside this. Don't try to force it into the MCU and do all this other stuff. Just let them operate in their own bubble. Let them keep cooking and doing this stuff. So that's what I hope to see out of this show. I know that's like a more boring answer. That's a very obvious answer. Everybody wants it to keep being good. That's very standard. But since I don't have that knowledge, I can't point to arcs and different things and like other characters that I would like to see adapted and stuff. I'd just be, spinning bullshit. So I just want to love seasons 2, 3, 4, be however much they decide to go, however long they decide to go. I want to love every season as much as I love season 1.
I don't even think that's that bland of a take, because I think it's essentially, just letting that X-Men soap opera thrive. Put these characters in a space and have them interacting with each other as crazy shit happens. And that's the X-Men. And as long as you're staying true to that, you get these really fun and exciting stories with these great dynamic between the characters. So I think that makes a lot of sense. David, how about you? What are you hoping for in between season 2, going into season 2? How familiar are you with Apocalypse? You looking forward to him being the next big bad again? And what are your hopes and dreams?
Well, back in the day, I was really excited for X-Men Apocalypse. I mean, it was a bit of a letdown. I kind of agree with you. It's not as bad as maybe people let on to be. I haven't seen it in a very long time, but I will be rewatching it very soon for the direct podcast. But anyway, I think that this was the best way they could have ended this season, where you put a bow on that arc in a sense, and you completely reintroduce something brand new at the very end. Like, it was an awesome cliffhanger. It really did feel like a season 1 of television, where you go on this whole journey, you learn all these different things, you get all these different characters, and then at the end, whoa, where are we right now? And getting those realizations, being in the 3 different timelines, seemingly all relative to Apocalypse, just sounds really cool. Like, I just can't wait to see. I mean, already it's kind of silly to say. I can't wait to see the resolution, I should say, of just that. Like, what does happen next? Because there was an element, which is a great thing, where it's like, I need to see what happens next, because this was such a crazy ending. Yeah, I was not expecting this at all. I wasn't expecting this crazy, wild, like, some thrown this way, some thrown that way, some not found at all on totally different timelines. So the Nathan thing got me. I'm like, wait a second. It's like, what's going on here? But beyond that, yeah, I mean, I'm excited for Apocalypse because, like I said, Bastion, I thought kind of, fell a little bit flatter than I would have liked. And I think Apocalypse has an area now leading in all the way, all the speculation into season 2 is going to be about Apocalypse, because we know he's coming. And now what he gets to do and what that villain arc is going to be in season 2. I mean, I can't wait. I hope they don't take too long. I hope it is just like maybe like a year of actual time gap between seasons. Like, maybe we can get X-Men 97 season 2 next year. Like, because I mean, you got to ride the momentum a little bit. You don't want people to forget. And it almost kind of needs to be like old school animation, where you don't really have to wait that long in between seasons.
It'd be nice if we could get it like after Skeleton Crew. If we get like over the next like big set of Disney Plus shows, it's The Acolyte and then Agatha All Along, followed by Skeleton Crew. If we could get X-Men 97 back there after that, I think that would be a good, exciting time frame.
Yeah, I could also see them dropping, because they just said a vague 2025 Ironheart release. Mm-hmm. I could see that being the Echo window, possibly. Mm-hmm. So that thrown in there, and then we get 97 after that. I think that would be awesome. And then wait, it's when is it for Daredevil? What'd they say? March.
Yeah. So that'll probably be basically immediately after Skeleton Crew, actually, because isn't Skeleton Crew going to be like expected Christmas. Either December, January?
Yeah, December,
right around Christmas. Yeah.
Yeah, so it could be busy. Maybe at 97 season 2, depending on the animation, schedule is going to be after Daredevil. Who knows?
I mean, a year away.
Percy Jackson always in there as well as like a potential thing that they'll have to release in that window. It's either way, it's exciting times.
A lot going on. Yeah.
I don't mind if specific MCU sacred timeline stuff. There's only 3 movies, 3 shows, 2 shows, whatever it is a year, as long as we're getting all this Star Wars and this animation and stuff in between there as well. TCR, what are your hopes and dreams for season 2 of X-Men 97?
Avengers versus X-Men is not totally dead, but it's not the team fighting the Avengers that I really want. I could totally see that happening with like these new X-Men.
It would be 3. They turn to Avengers for help. They turn to Cap, they turn to Tony, etc. They don't get the help they require, which leads to Avengers versus X-Men in season 3.
See, I would love that. That would be the best. Inject that mentally, inject that into my mind and veins. I think what I'm really hoping for is we get a season 2 original series. They have what's going on and like, oh, the professor is dead and Magneto they're all missing. So you every now and then will jump to the Savage Land in that. I would like to focus, I would say 50% on the modern situation of like what's happening, because obviously Apocalypse is doing shit present day. Jumping the other, 25% to the other 2, future and past, because I feel like we don't have to do as much there as setting up what's happening now, because it seems like here's where he started, here's where he goes, but what's happening now is the key for Apocalypse. So
what's he doing with this Queen of Hearts?
You son of a bitch, get out of my head. I think he's going to bring Gambit back from the dead. and make him one of his horsemen. And
Bingo.
that is terrifying. Who else will he bring back from the dead? I don't even think he's got to bring Emma Frost back. Bring everyone back from the dead, because Emma Frost would be like, yeah, I'll join you. Like, screw it. Never forget.
Or is she going to be one of the leaders of the X-Men?
Dude, that is my big hope. And then my other biggest hope is that Scott Summers is like, oh my God, look at you, Emma Frost. I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And they do stuff. And then it's a love pentagon or whatever it would be at that point. It's crazy. But I really hope we jump back and forth between the timeline. We develop some other like newer X-Men. I think that's going to be something that they're really focusing on. If I remember Bo saying something on Twitter is like, well, like we all have our favorite X-Men and we're hoping that we get to tell big, important stories with them. And there's like, and it's not your usual roster of characters. So that's a potential opportunity. Logan might actually still be alive in present day and might lead the X-Men in that timeline where you've got Magneto and Xavier in the past and obviously Scott and Jean in the future. So like you've got a lot of amazing teams that you can create, which would really build to this like this portal scene of X-Men in the finale to fight against Apocalypse and his minions. And think about the pathos of Rogue versus a resurrected evil Gambit. That is something that I am very excited about when it comes to season 2, because we know Bo was still a part of season 2, the writing and all that. I think they're just finishing animation right now. But when it comes to season 3 is where I'm like, ooh, I don't know what's going to happen. Apparently he'd started stories and they're going to continue on with those stories with whoever is continued forth with that work, because that's just how the machine usually works. But I'm excited for season 2. I have a lot of faith in season 2 because the creative team is still there. Give me more Storm. That's my dream in X-Men. Also, what the fuck are the Pietro and Wanda doing out in space? That's amazing.
Feige said no. Feige said no. That's the answer. He said, I got big plans for Wanda. You can't use her.
Well, we don't know that, but we do know that Deadpool was entirely off limits. So I might have to tweet at Bo and be like, hey man, are like Wanda and Pietro off limits? Or so good thoughts.
We'll find out the current lineage of the Black Panther and where they're at the same time of that one. It's been an incredible first season of X-Men 97. We're all very excited for season 2, but we also have tons of really exciting content over at Agents of Fandom coming up here in the near future. Next week on the podcast, we will be joined by heavy spoilers. After that, we will be beginning our Acolyte coverage, diving back into Star Wars mode after our brief little break. We got some fun interviews just posted to the website very recently, including my X-Men 97 interview with Larry Houston, the director of X-Men, the animated series. You can find that up on agentsoffandom.com, as well as our YouTube page. Smash the like button, do all that good stuff, follow on socials. And then additionally, we got some fun interviews coming up as well. Adam's going to be doing some House of the Dragon interviews. We got an interview with the man who did the score for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes and so much more. John Paisano, going to be talking with Ryan as well as Adam in that one. And then we have tons of content coming out with X-Men 97, Dark Matter reviews and recaps from Adam, The Sympather reviews and recaps from myself, Bridgerton from Millie. Sympathizer. What did I say?
The Sympather.
The Sympather. We've been on for too long. Words are too tough. The Sympathizer from myself, Doctor Who from Millie, and just a tease. I know she is very, very excited to get her review out for episode 3. So big things coming for that one as well. Plus, we will be given Acolyte coverage each and every week on the website and podcast as well. David, where can the people find you on socials? And what's cooking coming up on the Direct podcast?
Man, a lot's cooking on the Direct podcast. Obviously, June's going to be a very big one over there, and here as well at Agents of Fandom. Like their June's TV slate is just unbelievable. I cannot wait, just as a consumer, honestly. But yeah, you guys can follow me pretty much everywhere at David Thompson with 2 A's in the David. Beyond that, direct podcast posting every Monday. The Mutant Marathon returns this Monday with the one and only TCR himself for X-Men First Class. That's where we're picking up. But yeah, in general, that's it. Our Mutant Marathon runs right now. We're at First Class, then Days of Future Past, and so on until we hit Deadpool and Wolverine. So go check out that. Go check that out. Catch back up if you want to. Listen along. It's been a lot of fun going back and rewatching all of the live action X-Men movies as we continue to plow through there. And I'm excited to now get to the 2010s a bit because I was kind of getting sick of the older ones personally. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Go check all that out.
TCR, how about you? We're done with the Bad Batch. We got a little break before the Acolyte. You taking breaks on the Reckless Rebellion pod, or are you just going like, no, like it's actually going to take you 2 weeks to record your Acolyte primer since it'll probably be about 36 hours long?
Yeah, all gas, no breaks over there at the Rebellion. This week we're just playing around. We're gonna hop on the subreddit Star Cruiser. Actually, we're gonna dive in and answer some wild questions off of the Star Wars subreddit, which never can go wrong with that. You can find all of the Rebellion on Twitter at Reckless Rebels, RECKLESS REBELS. We have the Acolyte coming up, just like every other podcast mentioned so far. I just want to say I'll see all of you guys on your pods because the High Republic is my jam. Daddy is home. And not only that, but like June 4th is the Acolyte and June 11th is the next High Republic book drop. And it's a big one. It's called Temptation of the Force. It's the 2 Jedi that everyone seems to love the most. And they also love each other. And they are very open about loving each other. So very excited to see who falls to the dark side if that happens. So like there's a lot going on, guys, in the Star Wars realm. RIP Bad Batch. We stan Omega and that beautiful red headband. You can find me on all social medias at TC Rochester Act, TCROCHESTERACT. I will answer any and all of your High Republic questions that I can. And if I don't have the answer, I will send you to the proper people because there's a whole swath of us over there on the on the Twitter sphere. And just, never forget, we are all the Republic.
Thank you so much for tuning in this week, everyone. If you lasted the entire 2 hours with us, we thank you so much for doing so. And like I mentioned, we're going to be covering The Acolyte is our next big show, but hit us up on socials at Agents Fandom on TikTok and Twitter, Agents of Fandom everywhere else. Let us know what you want us to talk about. Acolyte's going to be the priority, but if you want to hear about the boys, you want to hear about House of the Dragon, whatever it is that's coming up, you want us to focus more on news, you want more drafts, you let us know. We're men of the people. We aim to please. We want to do what you want to hear. So thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. We will see you again next week when we're joined by Heavy Spoilers. On behalf of myself, Adam, our wonderful guest, David and TCR, the whole Agents Fandom team, we will see you again next week. Peace.
Peace.